That's what that would be if we got it. If it happens right here, yeah, it's going to happen. I'd rather be quick. Oh, okay, yeah, I saw that. We can mention that on here. I think I thought you disappeared.
It's the whole point is.
Oh, hey, we are live.
Oh.
Welcome to the stream, guys. Sorry, we're a few minutes late. Had to plug in Messi's deets, get his chroma set up, all the good stuff. We're back. We got the semi-panel today. Rob and Dan couldn't make it. I think they may or may not be on a fintech golf sesh. You know, wheeling and dealing on the greens. No, I don't know. I know that they are meeting with people. So, you know, if you can, why not do it on the course? I was on the course this morning for an 8 a.m. tea time. Okay, good. Thank you, Jedi. See? Jedi Hornet. It's my bro. Let me know that it's a little loud. I watched back last week, and I noticed it was loud, and it was like, fuck, no one told me the whole stream.
Okay, so, yeah, for those of you that don't know this, and this is like mega breaking news, John McAfee is dead. He was found dead in his prison cell. He had just gotten the word that he was going to be extradited to the United States. So the big question here is, you know, did he commit suicide? Was he suicided?
According to him, he was killed.
Yeah, he has posts on Twitter where he's at. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. But
yeah, I was going to bring this up.
You never know. I mean, who would kill that guy? I almost think that he would like set that up, you know, rather than rot in a jail cell, you know, for the rest of his life. But who knows? I mean, John McAfee, infamous cybersecurity pioneer, shitcoin pumper, whatever you want to call it. Still sad.
Yeah. It's not. You know, I saw a few things. I got a little nostalgic today. I saw some of his videos on Twitter floating around. We're going to see a lot of sort of, you know, probably hear a little bit about who he was, people's favorite memories. I mean, you know, the guy was a wild man. I used to love his videos. He'd just be laying on his bed there, like with his like 6 fully suited up guns, just like, you know, I'm hanging out and wherever he was, Belize, and he'd go into like the kitchen and make a drink and just be like, you need a little deer piss in there with some.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely
with some gin. He was a wild man.
He was kind of a cancer for the crypto space, but still sad. Yeah. You know, he had his own ideals and beliefs, and you know he stuck with them until the end. So R.I.P. John McAfee. A couple of people in chat are saying. You missed me on Twitter. I'll go ahead and explain briefly why I'm not on Twitter right now. How about that? You know, when I made my Twitter account in 2014, you know, that's when I got into crypto at the very end of 2013. That was pretty much the end of a bull run. You know, that seems to bring a lot of people in. So I was blessed with pretty much a month or two of an alt season, and you know I was thrust into a bear market, and you know I had to find my way, just like everyone else does. But when I made my Twitter account, crypto Twitter was a much smaller place. It was a much different place than it is now, and I think just from me being around so long, I somehow managed to amass over 130,000 followers, which. You know, when you're not used, everybody likes a little bit of attention, right? When you're not used to that kind of attention, it's really nice. You know, I could tweet hairy butthole and, you know, I get 150 likes. So that aspect was really nice. But especially, you know, it was already bad during the bull market, the reply guys and just all the bullshit, all the people, you know, chilling like horrible pre-sale scams on Polkadot and like all that kind of bullshit. But when the bear market, you know, after Bitcoin nuked and after we got all the bad news, like it just became a really miserable experience, and it was bringing me a lot more misery than happiness. I'd say substantially more misery. So I actually, you know, I spoke with Dan, CEO of Hxro, because I know, you know, I wanted to leverage my brand as much as possible, you know, to help out with Hxro and stuff. But at the same time, I was just like, dude, I am fucking miserable on Twitter. Every time I sign on, there's another person telling me that I should go kill myself or, some dumb shit like that. So I was like,
yeah, it's dark.
It just got super, super, super dark. It turned into, it quickly became something that I really enjoyed. And at a certain point, follower wise, it just turned into something that was just straight up cancer. And I didn't need that in my life. So I did deactivate the account. I've got another Twitter account. I'm not going to say what it is. It's much smaller, under 2,000 followers. It's been a backup account I've used for various things for a while. If you find it, good for you. Please don't tell anybody that that's me. But like I said, I'm not going to advertise what it is. I will reactivate Crypto Messiah at some point, and probably just post a pinned message just so somebody can't squat on the name and scam people after it's like permanently deleted or whatever. Yeah. But Twitter was a good run. I enjoyed it for a while, but in the end, it's crypto Twitter can be such a toxic place, especially during any kind
fear, extreme fear. It gets nasty.
People are just dicks.
Damn it! Now, first John McAfee, now this. I don't know. I don't know if I can cope today. But I feel you, man. I wouldn't say I don't want a following. Like I'll get out there. But nice, it's cool when people follow you and shit. I got like 4,700. I still have too many DMs. Like for balance in my life, I just don't really check DMs. So if you guys are in those DMs, I know I've said before, hit me up in DMs, and I appreciate that you do. And I'm sorry if you asked me an important question I didn't get back to you. I actually just checked the other day. Like you have 20 that are just like in that hidden part. I don't even. But it's like I get off the charts. I got calls all the time, and then my lady's like, "Hey, do you want to have dinner?" Like I gotta balance my life, and you're right. It's super toxic. So I don't think anyone can hate on that. If Bitcoin bounces here and does not come down to 32,614, I'm gonna be a little bit salty. That'll be 2 bids I missed by under $100 this week.
Here's
just so we are aware of that.
I still do have a bearish bias on Bitcoin. But with that being said, it is a little terrifying. I wouldn't be taking a short position right now. You have Alameda coming out and legit saying that, their fund is heavily long bias and that they've added new positions. And I mean, we're talking about somebody that probably has more of a market impact than Michael Saylor. And when they say things like that too, I would imagine that means that, the liquidity on the bid has returned as well. It's not just like, hey, we think the number is going to go up. It's like, hey, we've taken a long position and now we've, redeployed liquidity in the markets. It's definitely like looking at, if you watch the order flow or anything like that, from 2 days ago, like the order flow is totally different. Like there's tons of large leveraged long positions, that come in and are playing these swings. Any kind of nuke is being bought to a certain extent. It's really interesting. And, we did kind of like maybe a therapy session, if you will. In our Discord channel a day ago or 2 days ago, whenever.
Rob wants in on those, by the way. He was pissed. He's like, dude, you got to call me, man. Let me know when you guys are in there. I'm going to hop in.
That was fun.
Yeah. Levy's coming.
Looking at this, it can be one or two things. And when you look at the line chart, when you distill it down just to the line chart, for me, that kind of looks like a bearish retest of the break. But the real question is this some kind of bear trap, that turns into a spring? Like I said earlier,
I think it is.
Saying Alameda saying, hey guys, we're long as fucking balls right now. It's not really somebody you want to counter trade.
Well, yeah, let me give you my breakdown. I think there's a lot of anxiety in the market. There's a lot of fear in the market. So let's start off here with a little breakdown. I've put together a few charts. I've got my thesis. I've got my positioning. I'm longer on Bitcoin than I've been in a long time.
I mean, Bitcoin looks better than anything. If you have to be long right now, it's got to be Bitcoin.
It is for sure. And with the Bitcoin dominance, just confirming, and if we close the week above 46%, that's a weekly reversal confirmation that would come in. You can see it here on the weekly. If we close above here, that's a trend reversal. We're now trending up, and yes, there may be, a higher low, and that'll be a little rally on alts, and there's some room there. But I had a good chat with Rob yesterday. I'm all over sort of a Bitcoin restarting the next liquidity cycle. But here's the thing. Zooming in, first of all, this is just a fun little thing. I don't really do line charts, but I saw this on Twitter. I thought it was interesting. Like lower lows here, higher lows here. So we've got daily bullish divergence really forming since like mid-May, like right, that initial dump. The RSI has been trending up since then. So there's a little bit of internal strength there. Not a big deal in and of itself. But this is what got me fired up. This is the chart, the range that I've been following. Originally I think I was doing looking at this a different way, but I saw this range floating around on Twitter. I thought that's a clean range. It's getting a lot of action. I love this. So after the swing failure pattern, I've been tracking it. To sweep these lows and pump back in doesn't mean, bull market, that's it. But, obviously we've hit our first big resistance here and we just got rejected on another little swing failure pattern. So there's a lot of chop. But here's the thing for me. We swept both of these lows. So I've got a really clean invalidation at 28.5. And I hate that it's like, 5K below current price. But at that point, I'm ready to throw the towel in for a little bit. And I'm sure there's a lot of people thinking that. And of course it's like, oh, that got swept and then we rallied. Okay, cool, whatever. But that's a really clean invalidation point. We should not go below there if this is going to be a bull, if we're going to get back up to range EQ, which I think we will, and if we're going to take highs. And then of course you can zoom out and there's even, some nice liquidity above. So because this is such a potentially, midterm pivot level, like our risk to reward here is really high for me. Also, lastly, I should say, two things. The Dixie was a big part of that downtrend. People saying, oh, the US dollar is rallying, which is like weird, I guess just versus every other currency. But that's come into trendline resistance and gotten rejected. So if it comes down and just kind of consolidates here for a bit, that's going to be Bitcoin likely ranging higher, or at least it won't hurt. And I guess lastly, I would just say that if we are going to have a bull market for the rest of this year, and I've seen some compelling arguments that we may, then this is it. To me, this is the last stand, and we got everything we needed on that range sweep yesterday.
Broadening formations like that, can mark tops and bottoms. So it would be interesting, to see if it plays out that way. I do think, though, and for me, I'm not really a Bitcoin trader. Could I buy Bitcoin? I've still got a big stack of stablecoin. And I thought to myself, what am I going to do with this? Am I going to just sit in stables? Am I going to yield farm? What am I going to do? I really, really want to buy some of this DeFi blood when it's time. And when it's time is very important. I think there's two scenarios that can play out. Obviously, Random Task just had that dominance chart up, and dominance has a ways to go to the upside. I think that we're going to see that Ethereum Bitcoin ratio fall at least to low 0.05. In the meantime, Bitcoin is going to outperform pretty much everything, and that's just something to keep in mind. And what that actually means too is that right now, even if Bitcoin decides, hey, we had this swing low, we're going to crab a little bit, whatever, altcoins are going to bleed. They just are.
Yeah.
After DeFi summer, the worst DeFi projects did like negative 90, negative 95%. The best DeFi projects did 70 to 80%. That's drawdowns. So for me, I'm trying to identify, and there's a lot of shit out there now. So this task is a bit difficult, but I'm just trying to identify, what exactly out there I want to enter. I'm not in any hurry to buy. My bids are absolutely lower than we are now. But I think for me, I'm looking at volume profiles. I'm looking at logical, support zones like, dream buys, and I've just set limit orders, and I'm just going to wait, and I'm just going to see what happens. Now, the thing that would make me actually say, fuck, I need a market buy, I need to get in, would be, because, and this is interesting too, when you're looking at dominance dumping really didn't have any effect on DeFi. I'm not sure I would imagine, dominance increasing does. I think that's going to drive DeFi. It's going to drive all altcoins lower. But I really do think I would need to see some kind of capitulation bottom and then a recovery to buy DeFi. And that's if those limit orders don't fill. But for example, like with synthetics, like you can pull that chart up on Binance. The volume profile is super, super fat down below. The point of control is at like $4.25 or something like that. So I'm fucking bidding, and I hope I get filled. I can't imagine, that's something, especially some of these better projects. See, I mean, that fat volume profile below, and really right now, it's kind of getting down into the meat of it, but there's really just nothing but air there. But we're getting to a logical point where I do think that like that's just fucking enough to the downside.
Yeah, I mean the 88.6 just tagged beautifully. This thing, like most of these USD coins, just bouncing down along these key fibs. 88.6 is, that's the last stand for me on this reload zone, but a wick below is not unheard of. Even trending a little bit into that and coming back is not unheard of. So you're really going for the nitty gritty bottom.
Yeah, I'm going for the nitty gritty like value.
Can't go lower if it's a bull.
If those limit orders don't get filled, it just is what it is, and because I don't think that these DeFi markets are just going to go back to all-time high tomorrow anyway. So, what I can actually look for, at least my plan is to, if I don't get filled, I'm going to be watching for signs of some kind of accumulation bottom. I'd imagine that we'll be doing some kind of sideways movement and putting that bottom in for weeks. And then after that, we'll see what happens. Now, another thing that I'm actually counting on, though, is, I don't think Ethereum has bottomed. And I think that a lot of this DeFi stuff is highly correlated to Ethereum. So if we can get, an Ethereum nuke and we can go down to, 1,400, maybe somewhere in the 1,200s, that would be another entry for me into this DeFi stuff. Because the thing is, you can yield farm with these things. And I don't want to just be exposed to be exposed, but if I do get a nice dip on Ethereum, it looks like 1,500, for me would be really
the
nice.
200 moving average, plus the kind of wick below, close back above was enough for me to think long here. But again, with Bitcoin dominance the way it is, especially with just the marketing chaos potential, there's some fear there, even myself included. I'm like, I don't really want to be long on 20 different alts or even two. So I just basically have been buying Bitcoin. It's easier to focus on. It's one chart, one thing, one trade, right? But Ethereum, there's a case here to be made that at the very least we can get some kind of counter trend rally. But I think high time frame, I'm not getting too excited until we get above, 3K. So
no, 100%. And of course, here's the thing. I mean, Bitcoin will drag everything up with it. Maybe to some extent, but at the same time, then you're just sitting there like, oh, up in USD, but down in Bitcoin. If you're
exactly, and that's, when's the last time we saw a liquidity cycle start with anything?
People are complaining that you're still too loud. They said you need a drop.
I saw that. I turned it down since then, and I think we've got it. And that's actually good news because I always had my gain all the way up and it wasn't quite loud enough. Suddenly, I've got more power. So,
what do you think about? And obviously dominance is mainly a reflection of Ethereum, Bitcoin, alongside some other things too, ADA.
Ethereum, Bitcoin looks like shit.
Right. But Ethereum, Bitcoin literally looks like that Wall Street cheat sheet bubble chart,
this is what you look for when you want to short something. You get the big high, you get the dip down, you get into the short reload zone. And I always talk about this. That's where the battle takes place. Well, the battle was won handedly by the bears. And it's dumped now for 3 straight weeks. If we close below basically like 0.06 this week, that's confirmed bearish structure. And even after that confirms, oftentimes you see a little squeeze up like that, but it's all fake. And if we get that, I'm going to be looking to short it on a newer, shorter time frame reload zone. And then for this to play out is sadly probably months, at least weeks, but almost certainly months. And that, you know, that would align with the summer. That would align with Bitcoin starting the next liquidity cycle. I got to say, for all the noise and all the trash and all the shit floating around and the fact that nobody really knows, I feel like I've collected enough and seen enough, and it all sort of fits, right? So you have the DXY looking like it could break out of this, but it may and most likely will consolidate down first. And then you have the ETH BTC chart saying, okay, you know, this liquidity cycle's done. I've had a good run and I need to cool down. And then you've got Bitcoin just sweeping those lows, getting back into range, and really on the daily saying, you know, I might be still a bull. If you look out, and I put this up, I guess Spiner F Max, whoever that is, it's somebody else tweeted it, but I picked it up on Twitter. I love this kind of stuff. It's not even how I draw my fibs, really. But the fact that it aligns, like this kind of thing is why I loaded up on Bitcoin here. I'm not usually one to just buy into a downtrend, especially with the kind of lower lows on the daily, all that stuff. But I've seen enough, Wyckoff Spring, all this stuff. I've been surfing around looking at different people's analysis, and it all kind of fits. And again, if we lose this level, I'm wrong. I eat one more bag of shit. I've eaten a couple in the last few weeks. And then I'm probably just done for a while. You know, maybe I'm bidding slowly back in at 25, 22, 18, if any of that shit happens. But for now, this is like bottom of the bull or a bear. And I'm happy to bid.
If this is bottom, you know, I do wonder if we sweep those lows one last time.
That would hurt. I don't think so, but that would really hurt. Because, well, if we're bullish, we shouldn't. Period. You know, that was a big sweep. I mean, that swept not only the range lows, it went all the way back to the May 19th. Beautiful little sweep. Strong buyback in. You know, the daily buy volume exceeded that of the bear volume. So we've got a potential reversal in volume impetus, which is a really key signal. So again, you know, like this buy volume coming in and basically saying, okay, bulls are back. We've got some work to do down here. We may crab sideways for weeks, months. You know, retest at some point. You know, there's this moving average is the 200 daily. That's the bear cross or the death cross, right? Everyone's talking about the 50 cross, the 200. At some point, I was doing this in the newsletter this week. This will get a tag from the underside, and actually, I should just pull that up. Got offhand, I don't know which thing it's on, but I bet I can find it. Anyways, basically, the last 3 times that the death cross happened on Bitcoin, basically starting with the end of 2017's bull, if you waited, it was 28 to 80 days, so it could be a long time. But the price comes up and tags the underside of that 200 MA. One of the times you get a 40%, 47% gain from when the death cross actually happened to when you could have escaped at the underside of the 200. One of the times was like 80 days, and you actually ended up selling 8% lower. Okay, 8%, not too bad. And then with the March 2020 cross, price was already rallying by the time the death cross happened, and it didn't touch the underside of the 200 MA until it was like 38%. So you have 38% gain, 47% gain, or an 8% loss. I like those odds. And so even with this whole death cross thing, which I don't really trade off, but it is a signal, I still think we'll touch the underside of this 200 above this price at some point in the next 2 months, and that's enough for me to long the fuck out of it on spot.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a waiting game. I mean, even like now, for me, like I wouldn't even consider going long on that until, you know, I saw a proper weekly candle. Like you just had the weekly chart pulled up, and like to me that looks like fucking shit. Like, you know,
the weekly looks like trash, but reversals don't start on reversals don't start on the weekly. That, you know, so if you want to get into the nitty gritty, but I'm with you, and that's actually kind of why, you know, there's a lot of people that will buy once we get above there. So I think if we get above there, we'll carry up. And I agree. Generally speaking, I'm kind of telling myself maybe you should just chill. You know, enjoy the summer, buy back above 40K if we get there, and if not, you might get a cheap lunch, but. Can't help myself, you know, with everything I've just kind of explained. I was like, God, this could just be the bottom of the biggest dip of this bull market, and I need to scoop up a bunch of Bitcoin. So
what an awful fucking dip, though. Like
it's hideous, and you know, and I can't be like ignorant to it. Like we've broken a lot of high time structures that did not get broken during the last bull market when this kind of dip came in. I mean, there's a lot of things pointing to, you know, and if you guys are interested and you don't already watch Josh Josh Olowich. I don't know how to say his last name, but
Olschwitz.
He's on YouTube. I think he goes live Friday with Ledger. Dude is amazing. I love his analysis. You know, he's super objective, doesn't get emotional. He'll be like, oh yeah, this looks really bullish, or oh, this looks like shit. And he's got a sound system. So, and he's really bearish right now, you know, so far be it from me to say I must be right, but I've got everything I need to take risk here. If nothing else, because I got burned 2 small times on the way through that range, and I'm now like, well, I'm not going to like wimp out after basically what I should have been waiting for came in. So I tried to, I thought I was being really patient through here. So I tried to get long through this, busted, tried to get long at range lows, busted. And then I just thought, okay, 3rd time's a charm. And then I'm done for a bit, clearly.
Pull up that Ethereum US seller weekly chart, like, because that just looks fucking terrible too. You know, we broke down that weekly level at 2100, and you know, of course, we're stabbing into this, you know, liquidity here at point of control, at least on FTX on the weekly futures. Is it like 1800, something like that? You know, we're still above that, but you know, we're below that yearly volume weighted average price. We haven't tested. You know, we're not even 2 standard deviations below that. You know, we haven't tested those lows from late February. I just think that this is going to go down. And the interesting thing is, you know, Ethereum was, I feel like for a while, it was so bullish and so strong. It was kind of shouldering crypto on its back. You know, it was holding Bitcoin up. On, you know, Bitcoin down days, Ethereum would just be ripping, and that would pull Bitcoin up. You know, I'm wondering if the weight of Ethereum is something that plagues Bitcoin, you know, as Bitcoin's trying to recover. It could be, and you know, maybe not as well. One really interesting thing for Ethereum is there is the biggest options expiration in the history of Ethereum coming, and that is on June 25th. There are 1.5 billion in open interest, and that represents about half of the total open interest for Ethereum. So I do wonder, you know, if we are going to kind of see a pen job until that, you know, and as these guys say, you know, fuck, you know, we got to prop this up so we can lock in profits, or,
you know, what's interesting, off the cuff, and if he was here, we would have him explain it. But Rob, just kind of off the cuff, I asked him about that because I said, oh, I heard this huge options expiry. You're my options guy. What do you got? And he just says, oh, you know, June quarterlies, I don't know. Like, usually they dump into it and then rally after. And I was like, good enough. Stop talking. We're good. Like, so that kind of, again, one of those little breadcrumbs that I just thought, okay, you know, we just swept range lows, got a bullish reaction. We've been super fucking bearish into this thing relentlessly. And now this big quarterly options is about to expire. And Rob's like, you know, I think he picked up, he picked up like a fancy ass spread. You know, it's like Bitcoin December's minus Bitcoin current. I don't know. He picked it up at a really nice discount during the dip the other day. And, you know, again, sometimes it's like, look to the people that I consider a trade mentor, and I ask what you're doing, and he's like, well, I'm long from these lows. So that was good enough for me too. It's just, again, adding to that. But for what it's worth, his take on the options expiry, without looking at all the options data, obviously he was just off the cuff, but he said, yeah, they usually get really shitty into that, pushing price.
It does make me wonder if the next couple of days, you know, could be,
that might be your sweep.
Shitty,
if you want it.
That could be the sweep. And then, you know, after that, we have some kind of recovery because, you know, while it does look so fucking bad right now, you know, but at the same time, like, if you look at it on lower time frames, you know, I do feel like that it would almost be kind of a divergence, you know, if we were able to dump down to, you know, 14, 15, have an amazing recovery, and, you know, then we could go from there. Like, this doesn't have to be over. It was a really sharp correction. And, you know, one thing that's important to note about the correction is, you know, I don't think that this was a normal correction. It's the byproduct of a black swan. If you look at the hash rate chart for Bitcoin, it's really interesting.
Do you have, let's see if you can find it on Twitter. I'll pull it up. I don't actually have Glassnode.
Yeah, I think if you Google,
or just maybe Bitcoin hash rate.
hash rate. There's one on BitInfo.
I want to get a Glassnode account. I see so much interesting data.
You don't have to get the super expensive one. It looks like the hash rate right now, as reported on 622, was 87 exahash compared to a high of 171. Now that high actually occurred in early May. So, I mean, the significance of that is enormous. You know, the Bitcoin hash rate is down close to 40%. Now, I read a really interesting miner report, and let me pull this up on Twitter.
Yeah, I found the hash rate chart, and doesn't that also kind of fits to me? It's like, yeah, China actually banned miners this time. They're not going to go out of business. Like,
it doesn't make much sense. You know, I feel like China banning miners like that almost reduces the amount of control they have on the market, and that's for me, like,
that's what I think.
That's a huge bearish case for Bitcoin. You know, the last time hash rate was this low was in October, at the end of October of 2020. And of course, you know, the Bitcoin price back then was substantially lower. Let's see.
So we're going to get a difficulty adjustment, I think, at end of June. The miners that are being moved out of China, first of all, some of them obviously saw this coming and were already getting ready. There's a lot setting up in Kazakhstan. There's one setting up in Maryland, USA. There's a few others. And then there's obviously a few that are feeling a little screwed and they weren't prepared and they're probably going to figure it out. They're going to get back online. And this will, you know, this, I'm sure. So in a weird way, given the extreme fear in the market, that's almost like it's irrational now, right? It's like it's the idea, I don't know where I saw this just yesterday. It's a pretty well-known quote, but it's the idea of, like, you know, sell shit to optimism or optimists, buy shit from pessimists. And we are in this pessimistic market right now, which is otherwise still, you know, still kind of a bull market from some views, right? How far you have to zoom out to find a bull, but it's there. So unless we lose these lows, I think this is like an incredible opportunity. And I think one of the keys is, you know, setting yourself up to be in the right mindset to buy this. You had to have paid yourself and taken some off in the highs. Because if you're heavily underwater, 50%, 60%, I'm a holder, but it's really hard to put more money into this right now, psychologically.
Oh, 100%.
And I even struggle with that a bit, given, you know, as I said, getting squashed a couple times in the range. Now, granted, I was not damaged too heavily here, like a couple grand here, a couple grand there. Like, it didn't kill me. But I just, I was like, fuck it. You know, my whole thing was we're going to range. And the thing I love about this range low is that it could end up being a much bigger low. Like, it could end up being the
I am wondering, though, you know, when we're looking at the hash rate, the last time the hash rate was this low, Bitcoin price was around $13,000-$14,000. So for me, it's like, are we able to rally? You know, how much of that hash rate factors into the actual value of Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin, is it still worth as much fundamentally, you know, at these new hash rate numbers? It's difficult for me to be just straight up bullish, you know, until I start seeing the hash rate recover. Because after that, I feel like it's like, okay, you know, this black swan is over. The crisis has been averted. You know, we can move forward. Now, so here's the really interesting thread that I found earlier. Hold on. And this is from a guy, Kevin Zong. He goes by Sino Crypto, at Sino Crypto, if any of you want to look yourself. But he said that sentiment is obviously quite dreary, and the reality is setting in that it's GG for mining in China. Some mining friends have stuck around Sichuan since I don't think I said that right, but whatever. Since the Bitmain conference, they drink their sorrows away. Now they're not even in the mood to drink anymore. They estimate that roughly 70% of the Bitcoin mining capacity in China has gone offline. Now, this is what was interesting to me. By the end of the month, it'll be closer to 90% offline. So we're not only seeing that, okay, a lot of this mining capacity has been taken offline, and that's clearly reflected in the hash rate charts, you know, if you guys pull those up.
I've got it
but
here.
Also, we have additional hash rate that's going offline, significant hash rate that's going offline, potentially in the next week. You know, and I do wonder then, you know, is this some kind of bull trap? Or, you know, when you look at hash rate on a higher time frame, I mean, the trend is up enormously. Is hash rate something that isn't necessarily correlated to price? And when it is it just by coincidence, or is it, does it have some kind of greater meaning to that? I do think that the hash rate is going to come back. I think that, these guys, think about it. They've got a whole fucking data center. They've got thousands and thousands and thousands of miners. They've got specialized switches and equipment. They've got to make these energy deals with people. They've got to move the equipment. They've got to ship the equipment, which probably takes a month plus. They've got to get all the equipment set up again, plugged in, installed. They've got to get the network set up.
I saw pictures of one that's already online. They're like 20% back online in Kazakhstan. I mean, I got a question for you. Yeah, so like they're moving fast. I mean, time is money, literally hourly, or daily. I got a question for you though. Like with the difficulty adjustment, which I believe is set for the end of the month, the 2-week period, that adjusts. So based on the current hash rate, the Bitcoin difficulty will, get us back to 10-minute blocks, all that. How does the fundamental value of Bitcoin drop just with hash rate? I don't actually think that that's a thing, and it could be. Teach me.
Well, one of the really interesting things here, is miner profitability levels. And, what we've actually seen since all of this hash rate has gone offline as the actual break-even price, I believe, right now for mining Bitcoin is around $19,000, $19,000 to $20,000. So these guys are still very profitable, at these price levels. It does make me wonder, because when that difficulty adjusts to the downside, right, that price is going to drop even further, right? I mean, because
difficulty will go down. God, this is making my brain turn.
Well, they're going to be mining more blocks, right?
Difficulty goes down for the current hash rate, so the difficulty should essentially be the same now, like for the miners. Like each miner will gain access. Like right now, they're kind of getting screwed a bit because the difficulty is super high, and their same amount of hash rate, or they have a larger percentage of the hash rate of the network, and they're still having a hard time, finding all those blocks. Like the block times, I would imagine, are longer. I actually haven't looked because I don't transfer Bitcoin very often.
Yeah, I do wonder what those average block times are.
Yeah, but like as of right now, with that sharp drop in hash rate, technically what we should be seeing is longer blocks, less value processed per block or whatever. I don't actually know if that's the thing. I read it somewhere. But once that difficulty adjusts downwards, it should be back to business as usual, and they just have a larger share of the network. So in fact, they are more profitable. Cost of production may go down.
What do you have? That's a 200 MA.
Yeah, so this is the hash ribbon. Also included in the newsletter this week at herelabs.io. If you guys aren't there yet, it's free. I write it. I try to include as much important shit as I can. And this is my favorite indicator. If I really wanted to...
You actually cannot see that.
Oh, shit.
The way you have it configured.
Yeah.
You could put it... you could attempt to put it at the top of the screen as a temporary fix. Like move the panel up to the top.
Oh, yeah. There we go. And I'll move that there. It's not perfect still. Basically, well, actually, I can just zoom in. Basically, with this hash ribbon is to do with miners and capitulating and all that. And I couldn't tell you the exact technical ins and outs. But what I will tell you is that when these ribbons flip bearish, this capitulation signal fires. And that's, if that's a dip or whatever it is, sometimes it's just flat, like for 8 months at a time. But then this buy signal, and that's basically miners getting back online. So obviously we're seeing basically the largest drawdown in this ribbon, and I would assume that's something to do with hash rate and blah, blah, blah.
This guy in chat, Cosmos Extension, is saying that the block time currently is about 15.8 minutes.
Yeah, so that makes sense, right? It should be
so
higher.
Nasty.
Yeah, that's a little slower than usual, and that's like your average, right? So you could still get a 40-minute block, a 2-minute block. But basically, long story short, when this thing flips back bullish, you'll get a buy signal. And if you line up these buy signals with price historically, it's incredible, right? It's basically the bottom here, the bottom of this dip, the bottom in 2018. This was kind of the one shitty signal it gave where you ended up with the March flash crash, but that's also like a bit of a black swan. It was some people say it had nothing to do with COVID, and BTC Jack Sparrow, my buddy, he says, oh no, we had to do that. We had to flush the books. I'll agree to disagree. Point is, we had a trend line, and as soon as this COVID thing passed, we basically were right back.
It is really interesting. I mean, just seeing how reliable that 200 MA has been for bull and bear.
Yeah.
You know, when we get above that 200 MA.
Oh, that's the 20 weekly.
Okay, that's the 20 weekly.
It's the 20 weekly, and
it's been incredibly reliable. I mean, you're looking at this right now, and you know, we are quite a ways away from that, and we haven't really had a proper complacency bounce or anything like that. It's just kind of been down only, straight down.
So and that's sort of my other thing.
Rally, you know, but looking at that, it's just like, you know, I feel like this has been like the shortest cycle ever. I feel like the fundamentals have never been more bullish. But at the same time, you know, it almost feel like Bitcoin failed this go around. You know, but previous cycles though have had like so much retail influence, and this cycle was just not that way.
Well, I was saying this at the top. I mean, there like for weeks up here, there was just no interest in buying it. It's too expensive, right? You're going to come into crypto, you're going to say, I'm bullish on this. You know, that's $50,000. I don't want to own 0.01. And that was kind of the meme even in 2020, right? People didn't want to buy 17K Bitcoin, but even more so up here. And so there is that narrative for sure. And it's just a reality. I think people are more interested in alts, and now they're not very interesting. So where's the interest? But I see this cycle, and I see the next 10 years of Bitcoin not really being for mom and pop retail traders and investors, unless someday that becomes popular and everybody wants a little bit. But right now it's very sexy for store of value, fiat, printing, inflation.
I am
the
curious,
same old stuff. We all know that.
I am curious though, you know, because Bitcoin's pivoted narratives 10 times. You know, the latest narrative, of course, is the store of value narrative. You know, a guy like Saylor who bought a shit ton of Bitcoin at, you know, $12,000, whatever he fucking bought initially. Of course, you know, I'm sure he's feeling himself on that, right? He bought it, he made money, he made a lot of money. But at the same time, you know, as an institution looking in, and of course there's been lesser institutions that, you know, just weren't really newsworthy. You really had MicroStrategy and Tesla. The narrative was that this was a store of value. This was protection against inflation. This was a hedge against the markets. And it ended up being none of those things.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, what's your time frame on that?
Well, I mean, it's just...
I mean, I think they're thinking as they should be, which is in a broader macro 5, 7, 10, 20-year sense, where they're just like, you know what, we've got 50 billion, we're going to put one of it in.
I am curious, though, you know, why haven't we seen, you know, more institutions coming in and doing this?
Well, there's been a bunch more than those three. I mean, there's that one list. There's a lot of companies that hold Bitcoin. A lot of them are crypto mining companies, you know, Hut 8, for example, Galaxy Digital, obviously. These are more obvious plays. But then there was that Massachusetts insurance fund that put $100 million into Bitcoin, a meager $100 million. And they're a fairly large insurance firm, I should say. So, I mean, I think that is starting to happen. I think we may find out over time that there's a little bit more of that buying going on. But, you know, I'm not going to sit here and put my bull goggles on and not see the forest for the trees. I mean, we definitely did break the 20-week moving average. There's a lot of high time frame things that just look like shit. But I've kind of gone over why, like, shorter time frames, I'm taking my shot here. But, you know, and that's the thing. I don't really want to get into the prediction game of, like, this must be that, this must be that. And that's kind of what I touched on in the newsletter. Everyone loves to make the big call, you know, like, we're going to be a bull, we're going to be bear. I don't fucking know. What I do know, you know, is that this is a range. The long trade came in, and I'm long. And if it turns into breaking out of range highs and getting up into some of those, you know, short reload zones that I love to trade, or just even something like a retest of this 20-week moving average or the 200-day, they're all up there in the mid-40s. And that's a sick trade in and of itself. And I probably would cut some spot Bitcoin up there just to see how it plays out and then maybe get back in if we go full bull. But, you know, I don't know if... I think too many people get stuck in thinking like it's a bull or it's a bear. And if it's a bear, it's a 2-year bear market and I just want to get out. And if it's a bull, it's 100K and it's a year long and it's going to end in December.
The cycles have definitely been faster. You know, after DeFi summer, like in the past, that shit would have gone on for years. Like we would have had this long drawn out, like awful bear market. But even then, like that bubble popped, and we had DeFi round 2, pretty much in January through early February, and that was just it. Now somebody in chat is saying, Sailor's underwater. I pulled up his latest tweet. He's not. His average price now is $26,000. Yeah. Part of me thinks that Sailor is going to spend some time underwater. I just think it's inevitable. I'm not buying that this is the bottom. And, maybe I'm just unable to say, to be bullish, to say it's over. But there's so many indications that this is bearish. The structure is bearish. The price action is bearish. It would take a massive effort here to reverse that. And maybe that effort's underway. But at the same time, like it's just one of those situations to where I feel like, Sailor is the biggest target in Bitcoin. Now I've heard theories that, at this price, they're going to have to liquidate holdings or, to be solvent, this and that. I don't know if there's any validity to anything like that, but I just don't see how Sailor never goes underwater. That makes no fucking sense to me.
It would be a magic trick for sure, although he also came in relatively early in the bull. I mean, at 26, even though he's been buying much above that, like he came in pretty early. I mean, there's so many things, like, we've never retested the all-time highs ever, so as if that means we couldn't, but it just makes it seem less likely, and that's 20K.
Yeah, there's so many things that can happen from here. Like, do we have like a proper complacency shoulder? Do we rally to 50K and, then we end up coming down and really getting bearish for a while? Sailors underwater, all that kind of stuff. Like, do we have this magic reversal? Is this the super cycle to where you really can't even look at structure like you used to be able to look at it? Because, these institutions, and I forgot who was talking about this. It may have been Sue or Kyle or somebody on Twitter, but these institutions are, a lot of them are, they see these insane returns. They make 200 or 300% on Bitcoin and then they sell. They're not moon boys just holding forever. The vast majority of them aren't. These are guys that get in, but at the same time, and at the other end of the spectrum, at a certain point, they look at the Bitcoin market and they say, enough is enough. Let's go. Let's redeploy. Let's get back in. And that's the driver of the super cycle, is that you don't have money that just enters, rides Bitcoin, Omega Bull to 200,000, sells, and then never comes back. We've got a huge markup. Institutions are going to sell. They're going to buy back in. Eventually they sell again, then they buy back in, and
because they want more, right? Who doesn't want more? If you have a bullish thesis and you're here to play, and you got big funds, pay some people to understand the market and help you grow your stack. So that makes sense. And I like to go back to this thing. This really captivated me, actually. I was already long from the range lows on that, but I saw this. I was like, holy fuck, that's clean as shit. Like, we've tapped the 1618, which is a number I love, every time on this dip, and we're just kind of sitting there. And this one does look different. It looks a little shittier on these cases. Moving averages hadn't crossed bearish because we had much quicker dips. This dip was like a rolling top. It looks like shit.
That is interesting, though, because, there's things like that you just look at that and you're like, I feel like every time it's business as usual. Every time we tapped that 618 in the past, like, everyone and their mother was saying this shit's over, right? I mean, the logical conclusion was that it was. I mean, it just looked fucking bad, but even then, like, I've got Facebook has a forecasting algorithm called Profit. And Facebook Profit says that, we're pretty much at support right now too. We're at the midline, which has acted as support in every cycle. If there's just so many like conflicting indicators and conflicting signs, it just, like you said earlier, it's very difficult here to predict the future, because if you do predict the future, or you think you can, there's so many indicators and conditions and things like that can support either bias. And then, of course, in hindsight, it's if I decided, hey, I'm going to be a permabull here, which historically has worked out pretty well. I can say, oh, that was so fucking obvious. It was sitting right on the 618, like, it was on the profit thing, like, it was drawn down 50%, like, institutions are going to want to be interested again. Hash rate's going to be coming back online soon. Like, I want to be bullish, that'll be obvious in retrospect. But, the bearish thing case as well, like, we're above that weekly, or we're below the 20 on the weekly. That historically has been, a sign that we're entering this prolonged bear market. Like, I just don't know. Like I said,
can't forget your on-chain metrics.
Though. Yeah, I mean, the on-chain metrics, though, and even then,
the long-term accumulators are accumulating, the short-term speculators
are
selling. They always are, but they're, well, I don't know. I mean, let's go back to the beginning of the last bear. Were they? Were they accumulating at 10K? Were they accumulating at 13K? I actually don't know that. I feel like they were distributing because that fits my narrative. But I can tell you right now they were accumulating all through here. So like, are they that smart of money, or are they just buying every dip like full apes and they don't care?
I mean, they could be. If that truly was a black swan, then Bitcoin's on a fire sale right now. These are fantastic bargain basement prices.
That's what I think about this whole China thing. That it's bullish, it's bearish, whatever. It's clearly being represented as very bearish here short term. But I think that one of the biggest knocks, and it was actually something I was a little uncomfortable with Bitcoin, was the fact that like 57% of the hash power was in China, and that just didn't sit well with me. Not like just because they're all Chinese and in China, they all work together or are gonna take over the network, because that would just destroy their business. But point is, it's better to be distributed. It is now going to be distributed. It's not going to stay offline. It will be back. And this kind of reminds me of this, which is the last big bull market dip. And that was the Bcash fork, right? And I remember that because I was very new. I didn't know what the Fear and Greed Crypto Index was. I didn't know TA at all. And all I was looking at was number go down for weeks. And I did sell some right here because I was still up and I didn't want to lose any more, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. And I still remember it was like August 1st when we recovered, and I bought back and we took off, and I was like, okay, great. But that reminds me of this, right? It was this Bcash fork. It was the Bitcoin network's going to die. Miners are going to choose the other fork. Maybe you won't have any, Bitcoin. And it was scary. And then it passed, and it was like, oh yeah, like we're fine. And this to me could be that. But again, I'm not calling like bottoms as much as trading the range lows to the range highs, then trading up to these moving averages, which I think will get a tag. And that's the 200-day here at 43. And then we'll see. This is one small kind of midterm time frame trade for me in the summer that I'm willing to make. And then if that turns into a bull market, great. Fucking A.
So somebody in chat asked my thoughts on Rook, and guys, we will be wrapping up pretty soon. But Rook is an altcoin, just like any other altcoin. Altcoins are bearish. For me personally, there's strong support, or what I perceive as support, for Rook around $70. So I'll be bidding heavily on Rook towards then. But until then, you got to call a spade a spade. It doesn't matter if it's Aave or Synthetics or Curve or the best blue chip or the biggest shitcoin. Altcoins are bearish here, and that just is what it is.
And they're just arriving. So just the way I always talk about this, you get into these levels, and I am one. I get it. You want to. It's like, oh, my coin's cheap. It's at a low. Can I ever buy it this low again? I'm just going to pick it up. More and more that I trade these things, I've learned to just wait and let that bottom form. And I did this with Rook after you first told me about it back here, and it worked like a charm, right? We were just chilling, and it wasn't until this candle here on December 27th that we got the breakout that I was looking for and the rising volume, and then I was like dip buying mode, and we came in dipped, and like it was perfect. And I didn't have to wait very long, and my downside risk was reduced significantly. And all through here, I was trading other shit. And I think that we're going to get that across the market on all these alts. So I'm very much not in a rush to get
don't
levered up on alts.
Don't be in a hurry to buy altcoins, guys. I mean, Here's the thing. Like, you can look at altcoins and you can say, oh, this is down 90%. That's a fantastic bargain. What you don't realize is, you could buy in at a 90% drawdown and watch that go to a 95% drawdown, and then you've accepted 50%. The safest thing to do, and what I'd recommend if you have to be exposed to altcoins, is just to fucking wait and see what happens. These things, right now, there's barely interest in crypto, period. When you're looking at real money that wants to buy this crypto shit, like they're probably going to want to buy Bitcoin or Ethereum. They don't want to come in and buy your shit coins.
They'll buy it. They're going to buy it all, but they're going to buy it when it's back into a greed phase.
I think they will.
They're going to buy it. Everything's going to go up again. But it's going to. The question is, where is it going to go up from? and how long is it going to take, and how low is it going to go? And that's always the question with these things. And so that's, again, why I've just learned to wait for the trend reversal. And we've got a little falling wedge here in Rook. I'm not excited about anything altcoin related until this trend reverses, and it just confirmed. So I don't expect that to be for months. And in a weird way, as much as I find it boring to kind of only be trading Bitcoin, it's kind of a relief too, right? I'm up, I'm going to get up to the cottages this summer. I'm going to take some time away this summer. I'm going to try to get back. I've got a baby coming in September. Like, I'm cool if I just have to have price alerts on Bitcoin, all this stuff, and then obviously some level alerts on dominance, and then a big one. And again, this all fits with, this was the shakeout, this was the cool off, mid bull market. Bitcoin will rise from the ashes first. That'll start the new liquidity cycle. I mean, we saw it last time. I mean, even just this year, this was Bitcoin. Bitcoin partied first. Then Ethereum came out and partied later. And then altcoins really took off in earnest in January, February, March, and really only mania'd in May. So it makes sense. All of this stuff just makes sense. And I think what I've stopped doing is going on Twitter and trying to, or anywhere, and trying to convince other people. Lastly, the last thing I want to do is convince someone else. Then it's like I'm wrong, right? Like, I take my own risks. Yeah, I feel like almost too good about this, if nothing else, just because I know the previous, in the past, I would have been a little bit hesitant here, and I would have waited and for sure FOMO'd in somewhere in the high 30s. And so I've been a little more with conviction this week, and it feels good. Whether or not I'm right or wrong, I don't know, but I'm following my plan.
There is a bull case, at least fundamentally, to be made for DeFi. And one interesting thing about DeFi is DeFi didn't have that mania blow off. When I'm looking at Doge, when I'm looking at Shiba, I do think that those are entering extended bear phases, because that was mania.
Fully agreed.
Mega bag holders, those were, vertical, like straight up and then straight down. There's a lot of fucking people, a lot of retail, and we're retail, but I'm talking like pleb level, like non-crypto.
Doesn't look at charts. That's the difference to me. Yeah. Like, I didn't
guys
look
that bought
charts,
Dogecoin at 69 cents because Elon Musk was going to be on Saturday Night Live, like those kind of guys. A lot of that shit is going to be fucked for a very long time, I think. Now, DeFi, interestingly enough, has pretty much been in a bear since early February. It was downtrending. Of course, we had that spike up, right before the giga dump on everything. But at the same time, for DeFi, one of the biggest catalysts for runs anywhere on this on-chain shit has been scalability. DeFi, of course, Vitalik, they tried to do it on Ethereum. Vitalik nuked everything. He nuked all the dog coins. He nuked retail. He said, get the fuck off my chain, right? You guys are renting everything. You drove gas prices up to 500. Like, this is fucking ridiculous. But at the same time, we have Arbitrum releasing in the next week or two. And that's the first real layer two for Ethereum. And I do wonder if we are going to see some kind of DeFi action, because of that. And interestingly enough, the last time DeFi really, really ran, and it was a DeFi only season, nothing else was going on. Bitcoin wasn't doing anything. Ethereum it was uptrending, but it wasn't anything special. I do wonder if we will see at least some kind of action, on Arbitrum. A lot of these projects are going to be deploying on Arbitrum. There'll be fresh incentives, though it's going to be cheap to interact with it. So that could be something that sparks, new life in DeFi. It is really interesting, though. I can't decide yet, and I know a lot of this DeFi shit is just a meme. It's Masternodes 2.0 for any of you guys that were around in 2017. But at the same time, I do think that a lot of this shit is good as well. You've got things like Aave that are undeniably, quote, quote, the future of finance. If you've ever used Aave for lending and borrowing, it's just so easy. Synthetics has been a stinker for a long time. Part of the reason it has, though, is they pretty much promised a super liquid, high throughput derivatives exchange. They're not able to do that until layer 2, and
Yeah.
here we are, and we've got layer 2.
Too slow, too expensive.
Yeah, I got my bids on Aave, and like I said earlier, these are stinkers. These are really, really low, and these are bids that basically I would just feel fine holding for a longer term horizon. But I've got my bids on Aave between $90 and $100.
I was just looking at that level, thinking like this is definitely your spot.
Fat.
And I agree. If I bought there,
and we're gonna bounce, like I'd feel pretty good about buying there.
If I bought there, I'd be pretty chill. I mean, fuck, if we get there, like I'm going to set some price alerts because that's, yeah, I'm with you, man. If you're picking it up there on some of these DeFi things and you can hold for a year or whatever you need to hold for, it'll probably age well, probably.
And two, I mean, looking it up, I mean, how far down from the top would that be? Like 80%, or something like that.
70 something, 74. Yeah, I mean, the fib is basically the percentage, right? So at 702, it's 70%. 78.6 is 78%. So we've seen about
at like $90, like 85.
88.6 for. Oh, not exactly, I guess, but yeah, about 88, about 87. So that's as far as you want to go. I know a lot of guys over on TRI just clockwork picking up things like, not buying a whole lot through here. This was where they were selling, taking doubles, and now they're all like getting excited. They're like, "Ooh, I bought this at the 88.6. I bought this at the 76."
We are seeing that volume come in.
Yeah. Top traders I know are averaging in. But the thing you got to understand with that is a lot of like even Brian himself, like his bids, he's putting $500 into one of these coins. He's not selling the farm here, and he's also, these guys have horizons of
he's just getting his feet wet, and at some point he's going to sell it, and at some point
he plays through the cycles like clockwork. And I'll tell you this, his strategy on Twitter, I think you can see it on his thing at CR Investor, he pinned this tweet, it was like $500 into 100K through the 2015 to 2017 peak. But what he's doing is he's picking up these, these lows after this kind of stuff, and then he's just selling half on a double of that position. But sometimes like guys will pop up in like February this year, and they'll be like, "Ooh, I finally got a double on Shitcoin X," and they picked that up last June.
Yeah, that's wild.
So you got to have that kind of conviction. They're spread out in 100 or 200 of these coins with peanuts, but they add up over time. It's compounding. It's incredible. I can't do it.
That's insane.
I tried. Yeah, I tried it. I spread out into 20 alts. And then, everything shit the bed and all this stuff.
10 is too much. Like, yeah, it's so much to watch.
But once you pick it up, right, they set those bids or those asks for sell half and a double, and they don't look back. It's like alerts, and it's like, oh, look at that. That went off a year later or a month later. It's discipline. It's a plan, and it works. It's just that most people can't do it. And personally, I can't either. I'd rather, because I get tips on things sometimes, right, where it's like, oh, check out Matic. They just pivoted to Polygon. That's huge. And then I'm like, oh shit, I want to have my capital ready to ape into that. I don't want to be spread out in 50 coins for a year. So it's a little bit of a different style, but you can't deny it, man. These guys, and they're buying now. So I find that interesting because they're a pretty conservative crowd. So take that for what you will. I think this is going to take a long time to clean up. Some are willing to just sit there and, like you said, $90. I don't care how long it takes. I'll take $90 Aave.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, for me, if I get these like, $90 Aave, $4.20 synthetics, like for Curve, which I'm super bullish on long term, I'm looking at, maybe between 60 and 80 cents. If I get those kind of fills, the way I see it is I can long hold those comfortably. I can yield farm with them, have some kind of passive income, while I have to hold on to it, and just not worry too much about the swings or the number. I will say, I know a lot of you guys are probably, you're looking at your portfolios right now and you're seeing it from the perspective of, oh my God, I'm 60, 70, 80, 90% down from all-time high, probably towards 90 if you're a leverage, margin guy. Because, I know a lot of you guys are just fucking degenerate as hell. But at the same time, what was your portfolio balance in early 2020?
10K for me.
You have to, and think about where you are now. I mean, you have to just reframe your state of mind. And even though you're not at your highs anymore, think about how much ammo you have now compared to what you used to have. And think about how far you can go from that level. I mean, it's your portfolio is like a bull market, higher highs and higher lows, hopefully.
Yeah.
So just be looking for bargains. That's what I'm doing. If you don't want to catch a knife, you can say, hey, let's say you have $10,000. What if you just bought, you had your eyes on something? Let's say you're a huge curve bull. You could just buy $500 of that every week, for the next 20 weeks or something like that. And through doing that, you would end up getting a pretty good price on that asset. A lot of people think that we're going to have some kind of double bubble, like Random Task was talking about earlier. You have to have these liquidity cycles in Bitcoin to bring this new money into the system. Like if we do have a double bubble situation and, the end of the year ends up being really fruitful and we do see, $100,000 Bitcoin, we are going to see other assets rally again. So just spend this time, spend the summer thinking about, what's my plan for the future instead of just coping about being a fucking bag holder or coping about being drawn down. Like it's time to think about what your plan is moving forward. It's time to, realize your mistakes. I certainly made several. I'm sure you guys did too. Think about how you can avoid making those mistakes again. And as you do move forward, just consider, what your fucking plan is. If you're just sitting there with your thumb in your ass right now, you have no plan, you're just hoping that the market comes back up, you're not going to make it. It's the time right now that even if you have losers, you don't wait for those losers to just fucking come back. Why don't you
work on yourself?
Not in that, but why don't you also start thinking about things like, okay, these are losers, but what do I have really strong convictions about? What if I can cut these losers, have that capital, and then I can buy things that start showing real strength in maybe a couple of weeks or a month. That could be a plan. Ooh, look at that.
Look at ONT. I brought this up because kind of alluded to what I said earlier about that this stuff will all come back, and I'm confident it will. And the question is, always like, how long will it take and what low will it reach before it
massive
does?
Volume for
and
a
the
little
reason
move.
Yeah. Oh, well, this is weekly. I mean, ONT was exploding after this big kind of accumulation range bottom. And so, you're telling me we put in this kind of bottom, you come out of it with this kind of breakout. I mean, this was a clear fail. It sucked. But now we're back to those lows. I can't bid those with a risk to low. Like, I want to. I mean, generally speaking, that's what I want to do. And the reason I think this stuff will almost certainly come back is that it's a tool for rich to get richer. I mean, it's a tool for whales to play with, and they can play us very easily. And I say us, like whoever you are out there, they were accumulating so many of these coins through this. We've talked about this on the show before. We're like, who the hell's making these $7 million bids like across the market? And then what do they have to do to get it to rally, right? This market is tiny, and it can be manipulated by large whales, Bitcoin whales, whoever you want to talk about, and they can bring in the public, and they will bring in the public again to pump their bags, and they will dump on them again. I mean, because
check out ZRX. It's very, very similar to that.
Yeah, like you don't pass on that kind of opportunity. And so when you think about human nature, it's not going to change. They want the money. They know they can get it from the masses. They're going to. And so you just really want to make sure you're in something that's not absolute dog shit that actually they may not even play with.
And if you would pull it up on, not on Binance, like maybe on Coinbase, like we're talking about something that put in a bottom over, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. So when this bottom comes in and you get this huge breakout, which is kind of like very much like a summer DeFi looking thing, right? And then you shake it out. I'm like, if you can't bid these lows, what were we doing up here, right? I mean, has the project changed? Has the fundamental value that you thought was $2?
Dude, DeFi wasn't even a fucking thing, when it was making that accumulation bottom, or it was, but ZRX is one of the most used protocols in DeFi. It's a backbone of so many things. I've got bids set there right on that point of control at around 34 cents.
Yeah, and again, this was all extreme greed, and everyone that is now buying here at TRI, like on coins like this, I don't know if they're buying ZRX, but they were also up here like, no, this market's silly, it's irrational, it's exuberant, it's overpriced, it's too far. This is not rocket science, right? This is just another day at the office for a lot of the professional traders I know, And this is where they are starting to get interested again, because it's like you say, right? Buy from pessimists, sell to optimists. And up here, if you went into any Telegram for any chart that looked like this, it was just like, we're going us to $10, we're going to $20, like absurd valuations. And those same people, I mean, a lot of them in there are saying, well, we're going to hodl because we're still going there. Good on them. Stick to your guns. But a lot of those same people are like, yeah, we're going to 20 cents. You know, we're going to 20K Bitcoin. Like, buy from those pessimists, sell to those previous optimists. That's generally a very loose rule that I have. And again, I'm waiting for these. I think this will take time to clean up like it did every single time it bottomed. But this, you know, there's no denying it. This is not the time to pack it in and say, oh, it was fun, but it's dead. It's going to take some time, but it'll almost certainly come back. And it'll probably look back and be like, oh, well, like, what was I doing during that reload zone? I can't believe that I was too scared to buy. And now, of course, I really want to buy up at whatever level we get to. And I'm not talking about 0x as much as just any one of these coins, especially the DeFi stuff. That stuff, I mean, there's a reason it went up like it did, right? It's world changing. And it's all that shit aside, it's back to what I said about whales. Like, they can play this market, they can build huge positions, and they can start rallies, and they can drive narratives, and they can pay for news promotions. They'll sell it back to us at a higher price. So I just want to be long with them. I don't see them yet, though. You know, you'll see them on the chart. We saw them here, right? Nice long bottom formation. We saw them right here on stream. We talk about this all the time. When you start to see bulls coming in like this and you say, oh, look at this buy volume picking up, price hasn't really moved, pay attention. And we're just not there yet, but we will be, and I'll be ready. And if you're watching this stream, you'll be ready too, hopefully.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'll say. I did get front run. Look at this. Look at this. I got to just vent for a sec. So Bitcoin is being a little cunt right now. Now, like, I got most of my Bitcoin still, but I did sell some up here today, and I was buying it back at the 382, and I front ran it again, and then I got front run again, and that happened to me yesterday on this wick. This wick right here, I was $8 off on a fairly sizable order, not futures and leverage, but at a sizable order here, and it missed me by $8 fucking dollars. I blinked, I walked upstairs, I came back down, it was up like 2K. I'm like, shut the fuck up. And so either way, sold a little today while I was out golfing. I was like, okay, sweep of the highs, I'll dump a bit. And I was bidding this during the show, at the start of the show. I was like, and it looks like that was it. And this is the dip I was looking for. I mean, you get this little inverse head and shoulders, big sweep of the lows, come back in, dip down, break out. You want that retest. You don't want to just go up on fumes. And we just got that retest. So I'm feeling really good about this range on Bitcoin, despite having a little less long than I was hoping to now, apparently. But I'm not going to chase it. The last thing I want to do is, chase this up and then wake up tomorrow and it's down here and I'm like more underwater than I need to be. I'm going to stay disciplined, but I'd say about 15% of my desired position is now. I'm not going to get it. So I'm 85% long. And I think we're going to range higher here. I really, really do. And if I'm wrong, I'll find out at 28.8. And I will cut my bags and eat shit and lose about, 4% of my portfolio. So that's a bigger risk than I'm used to taking.
It's still good risk reward.
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, like I said, right? What are we going to... Range EQ is okay risk reward. Range highs is good risk reward. Getting up into some of these higher time frame targets up here is great risk reward. And then if, oh my God, I just long the bottom, well, that's fucking outstanding. So I feel like I've got a laddered potential here. And the next major thing I'm focusing on, I think, aside from that range, is this 200 MA following the death cross, because that will get a tag. And the only question is that, the longer it takes, right? Every day that this passes, this thing will move down because it does follow price. It's an average of price. So every day it takes to test it, I'll get a little less, but it will test it. And so it's just a matter of who's coming to who. And I think price is going to end up going up to it. So, yeah, that's it. I think we can head back to studio. I know you alluded to wrapping up recently. It is coming up just over an hour.
We want to keep these at about an hour.
It's been a good stream. Really nice to have you back on, man. Missed you last week. We had Rob and Dan in here. It's never quite the same. without my banter bro. So hopefully we can keep you getting in here steady. And we're going to give Rob and Dan, despite the fact that they are our bosses, a good talking to today, because we need to get them
I wish
on
Rob
here.
could have been here to discuss these, these options expiring.
Yeah, I got
that's huge open interest. Like, that is really interesting, and I do think that there's going to be some kind of fuckery going into it. Whether that is Ethereum is going to dump into it and then rally afterwards, whether it's some kind of pin job. I just don't know. I would imagine that those quarterly options are, the majority of them are going to be, heavy in the money. So a dump would definitely evaporate some of that profit.
Yeah. And I don't know, like, again, how all that works. Rob and I didn't look at the data, but off the cuff, he did say, like, oh yeah, usually price will get volatile into those events and then recover afterwards, aka dump and then pump. So that also just fit my narrative. So I shut him up right there. I said, okay, Rob, you've said enough. I'm going to take that breadcrumb of bullishness and that's what, 2 days. So Friday.
Yeah.
So, I'm not really trusting anything I see on the charts right now as far as like trying to change my mind on the 1 hour, the 30 minute. I have an invalidation and I'm really going to stick to that gun. I did swing a little bit, like I said this morning, but like 15% of the stack just to make a few hundred, 300 shekels. But we'll see. Personally, I think we can still get my fill, but it looks like on stream for today, I got front run a little bit. I don't know. I don't even know if I want that fill anymore now that we've kind of hit this little support level. I'd love to see us just take off, but I think I'll keep the bid on for now. But you know what I say, guys? If we front run the 382, oh, you can't even see the chart. I'm such a goon. But if we front run the 382 like that and then continue, that's usually a very bullish sign. You get a strong continuation. So, look, guys, it's been a pleasure. I'll be back on Friday. I might even go tomorrow. There was some discussion about front running the Friday and going tomorrow, but maybe we'll wait for that options day. But stay tuned. For now, we're scheduled for Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern. You can follow me on Twitter at randomtask555. And that's about it for plugs. If you liked the video, of course, give us a like. Love that stuff. Helps the SEO. And a sub to the channel if you haven't already is free and it feels good. So hit us up, guys. Have a wonderful week. Any final thoughts?
My only final thoughts are, don't get too antsy to get in position. It's especially if you're looking at shitcoins, it's not like these things just dump and go back to all-time high, in a matter of weeks. So, be patient above all. If you're going to play anything, play Bitcoin right now. It's everything looks like shit, but Bitcoin looks less shit than everything else. So be smart about it. Have a plan. I have no doubt in, a year or two from now, you'll be looking back at the number you have in your portfolios right now, and it'll be a joke. So good luck.
Yeah, I think those who move ahead like that with a plan will look back a year later and feel pretty good about it. Or, and then you always say caveat, or 2 years, or 3 years, or 4 years. But I think we're still gonna have a good year, and I'm positioned in that sense until proven otherwise. Yeah, and just remember this, when we bounce off the lows, it's going to be pretty aggressive, but almost always on a daily time frame, you get a retest of those lows. That's that local reload zone. It can take weeks. It can sting. You can have that fear like, I sold the bottom, I'm never getting in. But the higher low is what we are always looking for as traders if we're thinking long term. So, yeah, I think with that, we've
real quick, massive rejection on that Bitcoin.
I know. That's why we don't chase, man. This is a choppy range, and I'm not about to change my plan. I was really tempted to chase there.
Yeah, patience.
But I'm going to stay patient, and maybe we have a shitty weekend, and then we wake up next week. Who knows? All right, guys. Have a wonderful day. Great weekend, and we'll see you back here soon. Take care, everyone.